Hi, my name is Sarah Board. Today I'm here with Allison Swagler and Lissa Test. We're here to discuss our recent experiences with Google Glass, specifically the positive and negative reactions we received from our peers as well as the public. So Lissa, please tell me about your experience with Glass.
Of course. So I had a very positive experience with Glass, actually. Within the first 10 minutes of me putting it on and walking around campus with it, someone actually came up to me and was like, "Oh, Google Glass in Lexington." So I got really widely positive reactions. Everyone that was around me kept asking to try it on, or they'd ask what I was seeing through the screen. So there was just a lot of curiosity and a lot of enthusiasm surrounding the device, in my experience at least.
Yeah, a few of my friends have they came up to me and wanted to try it on right away. So yeah, I'm glad you had such a great experience. So Allison, I hear yours wasn't as positive.
Not quite. So I obviously had a few of the same experiences that Lissa did, like people saying, "Oh, that's really cool, like where'd you get that? How can I have a turn?" And all that. But I also, at one point I was walking around campus and I had the glass on. It was like an hour into my starting to wear it around. And I was walking around campus like looking through pictures that I'd already taken, and like taking a picture of my friend that I was with. And this man came up to me and got very upset because he thought I was recording him and his daughter, or like taking pictures of them. And I said, no, I'm not recording you, I promise. Like, I swear I'm not. And he like didn't seem to believe me and was very like aggressive, and it was a very uncomfortable experience.
I'm really sorry to hear that. But I know that some of our classmates also had some negative experiences, so let's take a look at the video.
I see the video. Oh, it's weird. This is ridiculous. You want to wear them a little bit?
Well, dude, I'm gonna take a little turn at that thing.
Oh yeah. All right. This is gonna be interesting. This is so. It's like surreal.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel sort of weird because like I know I'm looking at something that isn't actually there.
Yeah.
Like I'm constantly like looking up and like. Honestly, you can't really notice them.
Just don't want to screw them up.
No, they're on your head pretty secure though.
Oh my lord. That looks weird.
It's really strange.
Why are you creeping on me like that?
And then can I do another one?
Another one.
But it's so much fun.
Twice. Do I?
And you're walking differently than you know.
Well, because I'm trying to like keep it steady because it's shaking, but.
Thanks. I got to a point yesterday. Are you videoing me?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm videoing this entire time.
Oh. So weird. Hey, what's up?
This is Jennifer.
What are you using this for? That's my question.
Does this make you feel uncomfortable?
Super uncomfortable.
That's sort of the point of this project.
So what did you guys think about these experiences from the video clip?
Well, you took this one, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, like, just people getting used to it.
Yeah, so the boys that I actually had play tennis were really enthusiastic about it. They thought it was like the coolest thing that they could see the court. I mean, they were gesturing to it in the video, but they just thought it was really cool. They liked having it hands-free, and they were saying they'd seen themselves playing tennis before, but they never watched themselves play it in the first person. So for them, it was a really unique experience that they couldn't have had if they hadn't used Glass.
And then there were some other video clips that we saw earlier about like some more negative experiences. Could you tell us more about those?
Yeah, there were a few of our classmates were talking about how people would say, "Wow, like you look really stupid with that on.
Yeah.
Like you look like such a dork," or "Are you recording me? Like this is making me uncomfortable because it looks like you're recording me. I can't tell what you're doing." Which I feel like, I mean, there's some like news coverage of Glass, and like that seems like a pretty common experience, I think. That people just aren't familiar with the technology and so are nervous around it, which I think is what happened to me, and so.
Right. So how do you guys think Google could improve the user experience so people don't have negative experiences?
I mean, I think that as of yesterday, right, Glass is available to the public. I think, yeah, so that happened yesterday, and I think that now that it's like easier for people to have this Google Glass experience, that might take a little bit of the stigma away. Just because people will have a chance to experience it themselves and figure out that not every time you're wearing it are you recording something, or whatever. Do you think?
Yeah, I think that once it becomes more accessible and as the technology becomes less expensive, again, it'll become more mainstream, and I think people will become more accepting towards it. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you, Allison and Alyssa, for sharing your experiences. It's been great to hear the positive and negative reactions, and thank you so much for joining us.
What's $1,500, difficult to operate, disconcerting to others, makes you really stick out? The answer is Google Glass. I'm Patrick McCarron, and here with me is Coleman Johnson.
Released last year, Glass hit the market with a splash, creating both controversy and intrigue with its different functions. But after using Google Glass, Patrick and I have discovered that Glass has some major kinks to work out.
Senior academic technologist at Washington and Lee University, Brandon Busey, is here with us in the studio to explain the setup process. But this process is far from easy. Users will have to familiarize themselves with obscure cellular functions such as hotspots and data roaming to get it to work.
All right, Brandon, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's just jump right into the interview.
Sounds good.
Well, the first thing I want to discuss is what exactly makes connecting Google Glass to university Wi-Fi so difficult, especially here at WNO.
Okay, so yeah, the Google Glass device is currently set up really to only connect easily to open networks, just wide open, or networks guarded by a single password. So in the setup process, you can type your network password in, and it generates a QR code which you show to Google Glass, and it connects. Our university Wi-Fi network, both of them, the secure and unsecure network, are both have what's called a second step. It's an authentication step that is required to connect to it, and currently that's not supported by Google. Hence, we can't connect.
Right. Well, I mean, I know when I was trying to connect to the Wi-Fi, I had a lot of trouble. My mobile hotspot wasn't working, so I had to actually connect it to my computer, and that provided a lot of limitations in terms of where I could take Glass and what I could do with it.
Right.
I know that your experience is relatively limited with Glass, but just do you think you could talk about a little bit about why you think that Google should support Glass as a device that needs to connect to a hotspot or some sort of mobile tethering device rather than being its own freestanding Wi-Fi piece of technology?
Sure, yeah. So Google Glass, I mean, it's pretty clearly being developed and marketed as a personal technological device. You've got to connect it to your own personal Google Plus account. It's currently set up to connect to your smartphone via hotspot tethering and Bluetooth. And yeah, I think the main reason for that is just its key. One of its key benefits, I guess, is mobility. Right. So you can wear these anywhere you go, and you should have access to the internet wherever you're going, regardless of Wi-Fi connection or anything like that. Right. So hence, I guess that it would make sense on their part to connect it to another device that we all carry around all the time and has pretty much ubiquitous connection to the network, which would be our smartphones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's just a very interesting topic, I guess, with our discussion, and that obviously facilitates moving around and being able to be in different environments with Glass. So that's a very integral part of what Google is trying to achieve with this technology.
I think so.
Speaking more in terms of Google Glass as an academic tool, as a way that students can augment their learning throughout the entire nation and just all college campuses trying to accept and utilize this technology. So how do you see that the disconnect between our university's Wi-Fi and Google Glass and the incompatibility kind of as an anecdote for how other colleges might see this as a problem in integrating Glass into their own curriculums?
Sure, yeah. So, on our campus, we do student surveys with incoming freshmen and also every other year with the entire student body. So we've got some data that we have a very large majority of students on campus using smartphone technology, that kind of thing. So probably the decision to implement it at a place like WNL would be easier to do just given the ubiquity of the smartphone technology for connecting. However, as we found out, the having a hotspot on your smartphone is by no means as ubiquitous as just having a smartphone itself. And that's proving to be a key requirement, at least for now, as to how Google connects to the internet through your smartphone. Yeah, I guess the other thing about universities is that they're kind of unique as far as connectivity. We've got a large geographical area, all governed or all available, all with access to a single network, wireless network. That's probably not going to be the case in most places like your home or various businesses or retail areas that you're going to go, where there's going to be a single network that you just connect to while you're there, but then as soon as you leave, it's gone. So it does open up some advantages to being able to connect to a university network if you can wear Google Glass and walk from building to building or across the campus and still have connection. Just kind of to draw a parallel between Google Glass and other mobile devices that have come on campus recently, there were initially connectivity issues with tablet devices, smartphones, that kind of thing, and those have since been overcome both by updates to the technology itself and also changes and upgrades to our network. So I'm hopeful that Google Glass will have that same kind of trend in becoming more connectable to different kinds of networks.
Absolutely.
So I'm hopeful that in the future, near future, we'll be able to connect it to at least some of our networks on campus.
And that reminds me of another point I wanted to discuss with you. It is in fact Google Glass, and Google, as we know, manufactures Android technology. As one might be able to see walking across our campus, the majority of people here do in fact utilize Apple technology, whether it be iPads, MacBooks, iPhones, iPhones being the majority. So how do you see Google's favoritism towards Android, not necessarily favoritism, but compatibility, posing problems on campuses across the nation for iPhone users, even though it is fairly easy to connect to Google Glass with Apple devices?
Right. Yeah, so certainly definitely wasn't surprised to find out that if you've got an Android phone, you start the pairing process and it just kind of happens.
Right.
I guess the one thing that also surprised me was that it was relatively easy to connect the Google Glass device to iPhones. It just seemed like there was just a different level of degree of ability to change some of the system settings that I think were more native in Android than in the iPhone, and there are a few steps you would have to do as the user of your iPhone. But yeah, I think all in all, it's definitely telling that Google has put out a My Glass app both for Android and for iPhone, and that those currently are the only two supported phone operating systems that will, or current recommended phone operating systems for the Google Glass device. So I think that's kind of in part a recognition that there are going to be a lot of users of Google Glass who have iPhones, and just Google is going to need to be able to play well with Apple, at least as far as pairing their device.
Right. So you just see it more of an inconvenience to have an Apple device rather than a barrier to using the technology.
Right. Yeah, just going to be a few different steps, maybe a couple more hurdles as far as enabling hotspot, that kind of thing. But if Google can sell an iPhone user a $1,500 set of glasses, they're going to be $1,500 richer than just having someone using an iPhone.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
yeah, there's huge potential to tap into that market. Lastly, kind of more a summarization of what we've been talking about. What do you see Google Glass doing, and how do you see it being utilized, not only on college campuses across the nation, but just in society as a whole? Where do you see it going in the next 10 years?
Yeah, well, so I guess if you look back 10 years, the change between 2004 and today is pretty astronomical. Lots of things that we currently are using and taking for granted, like our smartphone technologies, weren't even around back then. I think the only mobile device most of us carried around back then, in addition to our flip phone, was an iPod. So yeah, we're taking that and trying to project it into the future. Who knows? But certainly one of the areas that I feel really has the most potential for development, just like with smartphones and tablets recently, is in the app development. Developing apps that kind of take advantage of the input and the abilities of Google Glass are really going to be, I think, where you see most of that happening. There's a lot of talk about augmented reality, so apps that take things from the web, from the internet, and then display them in your own field of view using Google Glass. I could see that being really beneficial for tourists traveling, finding areas, restaurants, directions, that kind of thing. But yeah, also just other various types of augmented reality and app design. I think that's probably where we'll be seeing it going on. I think if we can get if Google Glass gets enough really useful and beneficial apps going, I would imagine that's what we're going to be seeing in the next few years.
Right. Well, certainly a very unpredictable future, but hopefully a very promising one. Mr. Busey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great. Thank
you.
you.
It's been a pleasure. So now we've shown some of the difficulties in the setup of Google Glass. Let's demonstrate how the technology itself operates. We'll begin by showing the design of Glass itself. As you can see, this is Google Glass. We got to use it for 24 hours. Patrick's going to talk a little bit about the physical design of the device.
Okay, so the internal computer is located at the back of the glasses. Unfortunately, this portion is conspicuous and cumbersome, making it quite obvious that you're wearing a computer on your face. Also, this portion becomes incredibly hot. If that wasn't enough of an issue, the battery life lasts only about 40 to 60 minutes, which is inadequate when using glass in public.
As you can see, the camera is located atop the right lens. It too is very, very conspicuous and has the potential to intimidate people unfamiliar with glass because of its futuristic design. Another problem is the inaccuracy of this camera. As you can see on these photographs, glass takes very, very difficult or interesting photos, and Patrick's going to talk about it a little bit.
Okay, so as you'll see by some pictures here, glass does not have any zoom function and is very hard to aim. Obviously these photos, this one is even close to level. So neither is level, and it is difficult to see exactly what is in the frame.
And another issue that we found to come with using Google Glass is that the camera is aligned above your line of sight. So when you're looking and recording a video, it doesn't actually show you what you're looking at. As you can see in this video, one of our classmates took a video of him fishing, but because glass cannot zoom, the actual fish is difficult to locate. As you can see, the camera is filming what seems to be the other bank of the river, when in actuality what you want to be looking at is the fisher's hands and the reel and everything else that goes into the actual act of catching fish. Google Glass's design, while good intentioned, places the screen above your line of sight so that it doesn't obstruct what you're doing. But in some cases, especially if you're using Google Glass as a recording device for video and audio and photographs, you have a difficult time really capturing what you're trying to see. So as you can see, this fish is being caught. It's going to be reeled into a net and then subsequently released. But none of these occurrences are actually shown very clearly with the device.
And I would say at this point also that it would probably just be more effective to have a GoPro. I'm pretty sure it does more and takes better video. Well, this concludes our reflections on glass. But while we think this device is somewhat ineffective now, keep in mind it's just a prototype. We'll wait and see if glass can fix its problems of complicated setup, conspicuousness, and technological faultiness. I'm Patrick McCarron. Thanks for watching.
And this is Kat Fitzgerald, and we'll be talking today about Google Glass, but from a different perspective. We'll be talking about it from the perspective of the anti-tech people who aren't so much embracing Google Glass, but rather rejecting it.
So what do you think of Google Glass and people who wear it?
I didn't really have any perceptions of it before now, just because I hadn't really looked into it that much. But now afterwards, and after having used it, I think it's and researching this anti-tech perspective, I kind of agree with it just because of the fact that it is so expensive, and it's in this environment where there are people who are getting evicted and can't pay their rent in this Silicon Valley where people are walking around with Google Glass and potentially, like, not necessarily invading privacy, but have the ability to.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, because there's now this whole group of people who, the minute they see wearable technology of any kind, they automatically think that you're some Silicon Valley elitist. And there's definitely some judgmental actions taking place, such as the attack on a woman who was wearing Google Glass in a bar. Could you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, her name was Sarah Slocum, and she was attacked in a bar. She had her Google Glass ripped off her, and she was able to recover that, but they also stole her purse and her phone, so she was completely out without any form of identification, any money or anything like that. So it's just like these random acts against people wearing Google Glass just because they have that wearable technology on them. And it may not necessarily be because of the technology, but because of what it stands for, and because of the fact that there are people in the Silicon Valley that are more well off and are able to use it, and then there are people who are not so well off and see it as a sign of that elitist mentality.
Yeah, and another component of it too is that people don't know what you're doing on Google Glass. Like if you just see someone wearing glass, you have no idea if they're checking their email or if they're videotaping you. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's like another component of why people have turned so against it, because a year ago when Google Glass was just coming out, there didn't seem to be this really strong passion against it, and now as more and more people have it on the streets, there definitely seems to be more.
Yeah, and there's also this group of people who believe that the Google Glass is more so an extension of the person rather than like a form of technology. Like Google's trying to make it the next cell phone. And when you think about it, you can put your cell phone in your pocket and it's away and people know that you're not using it. And if somebody on the street were to be like, hey, quit pointing your cell phone at me, they'd understand and you put your cell phone away. But I mean, with Google Glass, you're making assumptions, you're stop looking at me, or it's more offensive and more so like the personal aspect of it. So.
Yeah, and then Google hasn't done a very good job of promoting themselves, because in the ads that they have done, it's not people in social situations, it's like researchers on wildlife refuges, and they're using it for really important purposes there, but when you take it out of that context and just put it on the street, people don't really get it. And even some of their strongest supporters or original supporters have even said that in certain situations, they will take off Google Glass because Glass users tend to be shunned, such as one man who loves Google Glass and was one of the first supporters and early adopters of it, and has tweeted pictures of him wearing it in the shower because he never wanted to take it off. When he went to Coachella, he noticed that people wearing glass were really being shunned and isolated from the rest of the group, and he didn't want that. So before, I think it was a Skrillex concert, he decided to take it off because he didn't want to be one of the glass holes.
Which we have a video about, so we're gonna look at that and see how Mashable is defining the glass hole.
So Mashable came up with this parody of all the things that Google Glass does, or Google Glass users do, that makes them a glass hole.
Social ineptitude and general douchiness. Here are some signs you're becoming a total glass hole.
I like the show, but I like the books, Game of Thrones, a lot better.
Actually, the series is called A Song of Ice and Fire. Game of Thrones is just the first book. Published in 1996.
Glass does not increase your attractiveness to the opposite sex.
Oh, these? No. These don't have X-ray vision. Yet.
What's up?
This is not what we mean by live streaming.
But it's summertime and I was thinking about doing something different with my hair. I don't know if I should like blonde or if I should bob cut. I'm not sure what would look best.
Other signs include inability to maintain eye contact, constant cheating at trivia,
Millard Fillmore, the Louisiana Purchase, the Kentucky Derby, Brussels sprouts,
and general douchebaggery.
Take a picture of this loser not wearing glass. Cooler than you. Cooler than you. Share to Google+. Still cooler.
Nobody likes a glass hole. Avoid these behaviors and you'll be on your way to Google Glass greatness.
Okay, Glass. Take a picture.
Did you see it last night?
So that video kind of is a parody, but it also does outline things that could happen with Google Glass just because it's on your face all the time, and it's so limited that you could be sitting around a Trivial Pursuit table and be the only person wearing Google Glass. So
and getting all the answers.
Yeah, and cheating almost. But yeah, I mean, it needs to be limited, and I think that that's definitely something that's happening, especially in the Silicon Valley, because they're posting stickers outside of bars and other establishments that say like Google Glass is not like allowed inside of this establishment. So I mean, it is developing in a sense like being monitored.
Do you think some of that though is because other people who aren't Glass users don't realize other things that Glass does? Everyone just assumes that it's taking pictures and recording videos all the time.
Yeah, I think so. And I think the fact that so few people have it right now and the fact that it is that elitist mentality is making it that way. So like if it were to be a more widespread thing and you'd go into a bar and a bunch of people would be wearing Google Glass, I think it would be more accepted into society and into that environment.
But I mean, we have enough of a problem with people just looking at their phones all the time. What happens if all of a sudden your phone screen's right in front of your eye and then no one would ever be having real social interactions anymore?
Yeah, it's true. And a lot of people have been talking about how like this wearable technology is inevitable and it's coming fast. And I think that people need to, the way they're thinking, like look up from the screen, they have to think in a different mentality, like don't wear your Google Glass everywhere, or like just pay attention to the what's happening now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's only actually going to get adopted if people want it to be. So even though it might be inevitable that the technology is there, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to become popular.
Yeah, that's very true. It's very true. So what experiences did you have with glass? Because I know that I had some of my own as well, because it's pretty weird looking.
Yeah, it's a pretty weird thing. It's very noticeable. You can't walk around and not have people notice that you're wearing glass.
Yeah.
And when I was with a couple of my friends, they knew what I was doing. They knew I was doing it for a class, and they were fine with me wearing it. And I ended up taking it off anyway, not because they got upset, but because I knew the stigma, and it made me uncomfortable having that stigma potentially attached to me.
Yeah.
And it was just one of those things where I definitely think it's a cool technology. I think there are certain places and uses for it that definitely make sense. But I would never wear it in an everyday social setting or in an office or at Coachella or anything like that.
Yeah, and I think that I agree with everything that you said. Like when I was sitting around my house, I felt kind of weird, and my friends, they would make fun of me and say that I looked like a cyborg, and I didn't really care so much about that. It's just that the creepy aspect of it. Like I felt like I was potentially able to invade their privacy and like do something weird with the Google Glass. Not that I was doing it, but like the fact that I had the potential to do something without them knowing was just like creeping me out. So I had to take it off.
Well, and also the whole like speaking component of it, the fact that you're always like, okay, Glass. I was sitting in my room and I said, okay, Glass, take a picture. And my dog started barking. He was like, what are you talking to?
Yeah.
And I think that's another interesting thing is that it actually is more steps to do things on Google Glass than it would be to do it on your phone.
Yeah.
So it's really just an extension of your phone. It's not doing anything that your phone can't do. And it actually, a lot of times, is more steps.
Yeah, and it's funny to think about all those people who think like, oh, you're taking a video of me without knowing. Like you would know. You'd see them touch the device or you'd hear them talk about it. So it's just interesting to see like where it will go in the future and if it will change in that way.
Yeah, I think it'll be an interesting thing to watch. Thank you.
Welcome to our segment of Reflections on Glass. I'm Sarah Strunk and this is Taylor Hayden. In this section, we'll discuss potential improvements and future applications of glass with Cece Smith and Kevin Travellini. Let's get started. Taylor, we each had Google Glass for 24 hours. What are some potential improvements that you thought of while you were wearing them?
The first potential improvement I found was with accessibility and understanding glass. When first turning on glass, there was a helpful tutorial about how to swipe, click, and navigate the technology. However, we found that the menus and navigation in general were not easy to figure out even after this tutorial. We would want to improve the accessibility of menus to ease browsing and app usage. Also, swiping tends to be very cumbersome when looking through multiple pictures or items at once and leads to other people's suspicions that you are taking photos even if you're not, like this video. We would want to improve the swipe feature and cut down the amount of time that swiping is necessary.
Another issue that I found was that was with the voice command feature. We thought in the future they could definitely make it much more sophisticated rather and give more commands than just the ones that they offer. Also, we found there's some issues with Glass recognizing just one voice while you're surrounded with a group of people. This is, you can see in the video that
Stop recording. Stop recording. Stop recording.
In the future, we think that the Glass should be much more sensitive to the surroundings and be able to recognize the voice of the user no matter where you might be.
Another potential improvement we found was with using phones as a supplementary tool. Currently, when you're in a loud environment, voice commands don't work very well. Using your phone at these times to type the command would be helpful. Also, pulling up photos, videos, and contacts on your phone would lead to better syncing features. Extending the recording time of videos through your phone instead of swiping and clicking, especially if you were making a video while you're in action, would be helpful. And there are many restrictions with Google+, including your contacts, that we would want to be able to use contacts from your phone instead of through Google+. And you're required to have a Google+ account to use Glass, so we would want to make changes with that.
Another issue we found was with the sheer aesthetics of the glasses. We found that people react generally pretty negatively to it just because they look so futuristic. And so we figured that if this was going to become a really widespread technology, we definitely need to alter the looks of it. Recently, a eyewear powerhouse out of Italy called Lexicota has partnered up with Google, and they're set to release glasses under the brands of Oakley and Ray-Ban by next year. So that will definitely be an interesting thing to look forward to.
I'm Stacey Smith here with Kevin Trevelini. Kevin, what did you think about your experience with Glass?
I think a technology like Glass definitely has some use in the future. I really enjoyed my experience with Glass as I found it to be less cumbersome than other technologies like your phone or laptop where you're stationary. I think it's a relatively unrefined technology at this point, but I think there are substantial opportunities for improvements in the future. We only used Glass for a day, but I think in those 24 hours, I became more comfortable with the technology and was able to navigate Glass relatively effectively. I think the social stigma behind Glass will dissipate as the price drops and more people are able to access that technology. In our class, we created augmented reality projects with our phones. I think Glass could take advantage of this and really create an interactive experience where you're completely submerged in something like a Google map.
I agree, Kevin. Glass can incorporate historical information into a picture like this. For instance, what years the sororities were founded, or what the Greek letters mean. Glass could even have nutritional facts pop up on clips of food, like this bagel and cream cheese. Walking into a dining hall or eatery and knowing how much calories were in each items, and potentially the ingredients and where they came from.
We created a number of augmented reality projects in our class, and I thought they were effective at providing supplemental information. I think augmented reality is an idea that Google has explored, and we have a short video from them to show how it would work.
Yeah. Meet me in front of Strand Books at 2. Oh man, really?
I only think the augmented reality technology will become mainstream if the use of Google Glasses becomes widespread. In this sense, the success of augmented reality will really depend on the success of Glass. I find this to be true due to the accessibility of Glass when it comes to augmented reality together versus augmented reality in something like a phone or a tablet. Some of the concerns raised with augmented reality have dealt with a detachment from the real world and the destruction of interpersonal relationships. I think Glass provides a medium in this sense, as it does not destruct an individual's field of view and can be used sparingly. What do you think, Cece?
I definitely felt detached from society when I was using them, Kevin. One of the things I found really annoying while using Google Glass was that the video and picture I took weren't exactly what I was looking at because Glass sits above my line of sight. As you can see in this example, this isn't exactly what I'm looking at when I'm taking the picture. I've been exploring the idea of Google Contacts, which I think would fix this issue pretty well because it moves along with your eyes. What do you think, Kevin?
I think Google Contacts are a really interesting concept, and I'd be interested to see how the Republic responds to them, given the privacy concerns raised from something like Google Glasses. Although they appear to be solely for medical purposes currently, I've seen technology that can incorporate a camera lens into them as well. I think the question will become whether or not people are willing to use a technology that appears to be so invasive and intimate. And it appears that a product like Google Glass, will move in that direction in the future. Another interesting and innovative use of Google Glass currently has been in the field of surgery. We have a video from Philips Healthcare showing how technology may help surgeons.
if you have to turn away to look at the monitor, it makes it a little bit more difficult. If someone is that critical that you have to keep on looking, it's nice with one glance you can find that information again.
Philips and Accenture envision this innovation providing many opportunities to support the complex tasks of healthcare professionals, both in the operating room and beyond.
Okay, Glass, record picture in EHR.
That's all we have today. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Cece.
Hi, my name is Blair Tons, and this is Andrew Crum, along with Will Chadwick. We're here to investigate the differences between Google Glass and your average smartphone. I'll be asking them a series of questions comparing Glass to a typical iPhone or Android phone. Since Glass is currently set up as an extension of your smartphone, we've decided to weigh the pros and cons of using Glass as a cell phone extension versus just using a cell phone without Glass in an attempt to find out if Glass makes life easier or if it just becomes more of a nuisance. So our first question is, in what ways is Google Glass simply an extension of your cell phone?
Well, I mean, I really think there's nothing you can do on Glass that you can't do on a cell phone, other than the fact that it's hands-free. And I mean, on Glass, you can take a picture without other people seeing. But other than that, it's basically the same thing as a cell phone.
Right. I mean, it literally can't do anything that your phone can't do. So aside from the point of view, recording, or the hands-free aspect, as far as I'm concerned, it really is just like your phone. And it literally does have to be synced up with your phone, contacts, everything. So in that respect, it truly is basically just a part of your phone.
Okay, and yeah, we kind of illustrate this dynamic with an interesting picture. It's actually a picture of someone taking a picture of the glass wearer using a cell phone. So it kind of portrays this interesting dynamic that's kind of the same thing. We thought that was kind of a cool picture. Which kind of brings us to our next question. In what instances is it actually easier to use Glass to record media?
I don't know if I would ever say that it's easier. I do think there are benefits to using Glass to record media, though. For instance, it kind of creates a different sort of style of recording with the point of view, which you can't really get with any other device. So that's kind of cool. I found that to be a good aspect, but also the hands-free. I was able to play squash with Glass and get footage. I know other people played tennis with it, and so that's stuff that you can never do holding a phone. So the hands-free aspect gives you an opportunity for a completely different style of recording media.
Yeah, Glass's slogan is "for those who move," but I kind of disagree with what Andrew said. To me, the Glass's screen, which appears on the top right corner of your vision, was kind of distracting to my line of sight. I try to do some active activities such as juggle a soccer ball and throw darts. And really, if I looked at the screen for a brief second, I would mess up what I was doing. And so to me, it's really not that helpful for activities where you're moving.
Okay, and we actually have another video of someone trying to take a video and it was messing up. Did either of y'all find that, and you had trouble getting the video to work with, for example, with like the extension?
Oh yeah, with the extension, that's one thing. When I was juggling the soccer ball, to sit there and try to juggle and then tap the touchpad was something that kind of got in the way of what I was doing.
Right, I agree with that. Like when I was playing squash, I could only get 10 seconds of footage because I wasn't able to swipe forward and keep it going. But yeah.
Okay, and for our next question, we actually have another video. It's related to driving. So, how does driving with Glass compare to using a phone while driving? For example, texting or using Google Maps on your phone or something like that.
I think it's probably just as dangerous as texting while driving, because you have that constant urge to look at the glass screen and, you can browse the internet, you can record a video, and anything like that to me is a distraction. And, I think there should be a law against driving with Google Glass.
Right, I agree with that. I think both are tremendously distracting and neither one should be done. I think it's kind of unsafe. I felt a little uneasy while driving with glass, and even with the screen up there when I wasn't using it. But I think it's interesting to see how they would compare to each other. With, when you're using your phone while driving, it's your undivided attention leaving the road for a very short period of time, versus with glass, it would be kind of the constant, not completely undivided attention, but divided attention between glass and the road. So I'm not really sure which one would be worse, but definitely both would make me uneasy while driving.
Right, and that was actually that's actually my video. So I kind of felt very distracted, even though I wasn't using glass. Just kind of having that screen up there, simply recording a video I found was very distracting.
Right, like I think like if you're using it like for directions and stuff, I never did this, but I can just see you kind of watching the little blue dot moving along the map instead of the road.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like that would be highly distracting.
Yeah. Okay. And what are your thoughts with regards to making phone calls with glass?
Well, I only made a couple phone calls, and they were in my quiet house when I was with just one other person. They were being quiet, and for starters, I had to go onto my Google Plus account, put in the contact because it wasn't already a Google Plus account. So I think I only ended up having 2 phone numbers on glass that I could even call. But once I made the call, it kind of worked when it was really quiet. But the sound on the other line, like the sound is incredibly muffled. Like I guess it's because it sends the vibrations through your temple instead of directly into your ear. But I found it to be, I just imagine using it in a crowd would be nearly impossible.
Yeah, I agree. Like Andrew, I only made a few phone calls, and I agree that it was hard to hear. Another thing was it seemed like the microphone on glass wasn't directly on your mouth. So I tried to call my dad, and it sounded like he was having a hard time trying to hear me. And it was just kind of difficult to communicate through a voice call with glass.
Okay. And so what about, I guess on the other hand, what about text messages?
Yeah, texting, I didn't send that many texts, but it was like Google Voice couldn't really recognize what I was saying, and maybe that's because I was mumbling or talking slow, whatever. But yeah, it's a lot of times it didn't really interpret what I was saying to the text message, which that was a problem.
Right, for me this goes back to not really syncing up perfectly. I have an iPhone, and so I wasn't able to iMessage, so I never sent a text message. I think it would need to sync up a lot better. I know it syncs well with an Android, and I'm sure that works well if you're sending text messages, but I guess like Will said, Google Voice it's not effective in that light either. So I think text messaging on the glass really needs to improve for it to ever have a shot.
Yeah, I actually have an Android phone, and I noticed, it was easy to text without iMessage, but glass would automatically send my texts. So if the voice interpreter didn't correctly put the right text sound, I had to tap the screen real fast to be able to stop the text from sending. It was kind of like on an automatic timer, which was kind of strange. How would the quality of the product affect your decision in choosing between a phone or Google Glass?
I guess my first thought when I got the glass was durability. I understand it's supposed to be waterproof, but I guess if we're comparing phones to glass, a life-proof case can easily make my iPhone waterproof as well. But that wasn't even my biggest concern. When I saw it, I was hesitant to even put it in my backpack because it could get jostled around, and I was worried that it would get broken. And I feel like it's much more easily broken than a phone. And so that was my thought.
Yeah, one of my thoughts was, comparing glass to a phone, phone's battery life is so much better. Going back to Google Glass's slogan, for those that move, if you're going to take glass out on, an outdoor activity such as a hike or, you went canoeing or kayaking, anything like that, I don't know if the battery power would last the whole time, to tell you the truth, because if you're not able to constantly recharge it, the battery life is very short. In comparison to my phone, my phone lasts the entire day without charging it. So,
Yeah, and another thing, I feel like glass is going to need 3G capability. Without having my phone, glass was nothing. Sure, you can link it up with Wi-Fi or your computer, but this goes back to for those who move. If you're moving without your phone, also, it's solely a recording device. So I think that in addition to, I know I have extremely high rates if I use a personal hotspot, and so I had to have a hotspot going the entire time. So I think the glass needs 3G capability if it's going to ever be successful.
Yeah, and being a college student, it's it's a $1,500 product, which that's unrealistic for pretty much any college student, and and then if you break it or anything like that, how expensive is it going to be to fix?
Right.
Which that's another big issue for glass.
Okay, which kind of takes me to my final question. Obviously, with some of the improvements that we've kind of touched upon, what do you think glass could ever completely replace the cell phone?
I don't know. It's just unless they find a way to completely revamp the microphone and the earpiece. No, I don't think so.
Right. I think on the surface, there's too much wrong with glass right now for it to ever completely take over. But even if all that was fixed, for me, there's a certain stigma with glass right now. People just universally are not gonna start wearing glass. It's not gonna be something that everybody does, and unless that's the case, then it's never gonna be a big thing because nobody wants to be the glass hole. So unless it was just suddenly universally accepted and all the problems we discussed are fixed, I don't see it, no.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our dialogue. We hope that we've informed you and possibly helped you in deciding whether or not glass is right for your own personal use. And using glass for 24 hours was truly an interesting experience, and we'd like to thank W&L for the opportunity to try out a product like this.